My girlfriend of 3 years cheated on me, got pregnant, and later begged me to help her and take her back. I found out the woman I planned to build a future with had erased me from her life overnight, and she was carrying another man's child. For 3 years, she had been my constant. Not perfect, not some fairy tale romance, but real. We fought, we cooled off, we came back together. The kind of relationship where you learn each other's moods, where silence can be comfortable, where you start picturing ordinary things. Sunday mornings, grocery lists, growing old without making a big deal about it. I thought we were steady. I thought we were honest. Then something in her shifted. It started small, the way these things always do. Her laughter didn't reach her eyes anymore. She guarded her phone like it was a vault. When I asked how her day was, she'd give me clipped answers, like she was already somewhere else. Once, when I asked if everything was okay between us, she snapped at me so hard it felt like I'd touched a live wire. I remember standing there, stunned, wondering what crime I'd committed without knowing it. Around the same time, she kept getting sick. Her daughter told me she'd been throwing up in the mornings. I brushed it off at first. Flu season, stress, maybe something she ate. But a quiet unease settled in my chest. The kind you can't name but can't ignore either. Then one day she just vanished. I texted her. Nothing. I called. No answer. That wasn't unusual for her for a few hours. But when a full day passed, and then another, something in me started to panic. By the end of the week, I was driving to her place, heart thudding like it knew the truth before my mind did. Her lights were off. No answer at the door. My messages were marked as read and left unanswered. I stared at my phone, my pride crumbling with every ignored message. Finally, desperate, I typed something I thought might reach the part of her that still believed in forgiveness. She was religious, so I wrote, "I'm sorry for whatever I did. Even Jesus forgave Judas." The reply came almost instantly. God forgives all. And then, like a door slamming shut in my face, she told me never to text her again. Before I could even process it, she blocked me on everything. Just like that, 3 years of my life ended without a conversation, without an explanation, only silence where love used to be. The silence she left behind was louder than any fight we'd ever had. For weeks, I moved through my days like I was underwater. Everything felt heavy. My boots when I laced them up for work, my thoughts when I tried to sleep, the memories that kept ambushing me at random moments. I replayed every conversation in my head, searching for the moment I must have ruined everything. I convinced myself I had missed some obvious sign, some fatal flaw in me that had finally driven her away. You don't just lose a girlfriend when something like that happens. You lose the version of yourself that believed people couldn't disappear without a reason. I stopped checking my phone, stopped hoping for explanations. I told myself closure was a luxury I wasn't owed. 3 months passed. By then, I had stitched together something that almost resembled normal life again. Almost. I could get through a shift without drifting off into that hollow space where her face used to live. I could laugh with the guys without feeling like I was lying to them, and to myself. Then, on a routine call, I dropped off a patient at the hospice facility where she worked. As I pulled into the parking lot, my chest tightened out of pure reflex. I scanned for her SUV without even thinking about it. It wasn't there. Relief washed over me, mixed with a stupid little ache I hated myself for still feeling. Inside, one of the nurses recognized me. She smiled the way people do when they think they're being kind. "How's she doing?" she asked casually. The words hit me like a punch I hadn't seen coming. I told her we weren't together anymore, trying to keep my voice steady, like it didn't matter. The nurse's smile faltered. She glanced around, lowered her voice. "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you knew. She was terminated a while back. Damaged one of the company vehicles." I nodded, pretending that information didn't matter. I was already halfway out of the conversation when she added, almost as an afterthought, "So, are you going to help her when the baby's born?" I swear the world tilted. For a second, I didn't understand the words. They floated in the air between us, wrong and unreal. "The baby," I repeated, feeling my throat tighten. She looked confused. "Yeah, she's pregnant. 5 months along. Last I heard. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up right there in the hallway. It wasn't mine. Couldn't be. I'd had the snip after my daughter was born. There was no room for doubt, no cruel twist of fate to soften the blow. In one breath, everything clicked into place. The sickness, the secrecy, the sudden disappearance. She hadn't just left me. She had replaced me. I don't remember how I made it back to my truck. I know I nodded to the nurse like the conversation hadn't just cracked something open inside me. I know I walked down the hallway with my back straight, the way you do when you refuse to let strangers see you bleed. But once I shut the door and sat behind the wheel, the weight of it all came crashing down. Pregnant. 5 months. Not mine. The words echoed in my head, over and over, like a cruel chant. I stared at the steering wheel until my vision blurred, my hands gripping it too tight. Anger tried to rise up first, but it got tangled with something heavier, humiliation, grief, and a sharp, sickening sense of being disposable. 3 years meant nothing in the face of whatever thrill she'd chased. Healing wasn't some clean, inspirational montage after that. It was messy. Some days I felt okay, like I'd finally outrun the shadow of her. Other days, a random song on the radio or the smell of her shampoo in a store aisle would hit me in the chest and leave me breathless. I learned the hard way that you can miss someone and still know they're poison for you. Time did what time always does. It wore the sharp edges down. Eventually, I let myself meet someone new. She was an RN at the hospital, calm where I was restless, steady in a way that made me feel like I could finally exhale. We took it slow. I didn't dump my wreckage at her feet. I just showed up, day after day, and let something real grow in the open instead of hiding in the dark. 1.5 years passed. That's when the messages started. Unknown number. Short, careful texts about forgiveness. Hoping I was doing well. Wishing me peace. I didn't reply. I knew who it was before the second message came in. I could feel her fingerprints on every word. I blocked the number and tried to forget it. But she didn't forget me. One evening, after getting off duty, I walked up to my truck and found a folded note tucked under the wiper. My name was written on it in handwriting I'd once known by heart. She asked me to please meet her. Just talk. Just for a minute. I stood there in the parking lot, the paper trembling slightly in my hand, a familiar old tug pulling at my chest. For a moment, I considered it. Then I heard my dad's voice in my head, steady and unyielding. If someone can betray you after you've given them your life, they're not meant to stay in it. I crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. A few days later, I pulled into my driveway and saw her standing there like a ghost from a life I'd already buried. For a split second, my heart forgot what it was supposed to do. She looked thinner, tired. There were shadows under her eyes that hadn't been there before. She held her purse to her chest like a shield, like she expected me to swing at her instead of walk past her. So I walked past her. I unlocked my door, stepped inside, and for one quiet, powerful moment, it felt like choosing myself. She followed me, her voice cracking as she called my name. I turned around then, the anger I'd packed away for over 1 year finally finding a way out. "What the hell do you want?" I asked. She flinched. Her eyes filled up fast. She said she was sorry. Then the truth came out in pieces. The man she'd gone back to, the father of her oldest daughter, had drifted back into her life while we were together. She hadn't known how to tell me. He'd gotten her pregnant, promised her things. Then, just like before, he'd disappeared again. She was drowning. Eviction notices. 2 daughters. No help. Barely enough money. She said my name the way people say a prayer when they've run out of options. She asked if I could forgive her, if I could take her back. I wasn't jealous anymore. I wasn't confused. I was tired. "I'm not taking you back," I said. "I'm not your second choice. I'm not your emergency exit." She broke down. She told me I was the only man who ever treated her with care, that she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. I thought of her oldest daughter, the little girl who used to sit at my table and draw pictures for me. The thought of her going hungry twisted something ugly in my chest. So I reached into my wallet and handed her what I had. "Buy them food," I said quietly. "And swallow your pride. Go back to your mom. She'll take you in." She stared at the money like it burned. She begged one last time, said she loved me, said she'd do anything. I loved you, I said, but I'm not your second choice. I told her to leave. She walked away crying, and I watched her go, knowing this goodbye had to be the last one. I won't pretend I felt like a hero. I sat alone in the dark afterward, guilt trying to convince me I was heartless. But underneath the guilt was something steadier, relief. I wasn't waiting for her anymore. I wasn't hoping for explanations. I'd drawn a line and it held. Later, I heard she moved back in with her mom, that she finally got her teaching license, that she was trying to build something stable for her daughters. I hope she did. But my life kept moving forward. The woman I was with then wasn't just someone I dated anymore. She became someone I trusted with my scars. We talked about marriage in quiet, careful ways that felt real instead of desperate. Looking back, I don't romanticize the pain. Betrayal isn't a lesson, it's just damage. But I learned who I was when everything I believed in collapsed. I didn't save her. I didn't fix her. I saved myself. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. So, thanks for listening. Subscribe and don't miss new stories.